All right, get ready, because we're diving headfirst into the world of how pharmaceuticals are made. Specifically, we're focusing on those all-important cGMPs. You know how important it is that those pills and capsules are safe and effective? And guess what? We've got FDA guidelines, legal documents, webinars, and even a sneak peek into the intense world of stability testing. We're going to take you on the express lane through a mountain of information straight to the good stuff.
It really is a global topic. It's not just about one country's rules. It's a whole web of regulations, and it's all designed to protect people everywhere.
That's exactly right. So let's do a quick refresher, right? cGMP, that stands for Current Good Manufacturing Practices, right?
Yeah.
That's the bedrock of quality in pharma and food production. It's about building quality into every single step, and not just like slapping a sterile sticker on a lab and calling it a day.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about creating a system where equipment sanitation isn't just like, oh, yeah, maybe we should do that. It's documented procedures with strict requirements, and that ensures consistency and safety every single time. And it goes way beyond just that. Personnel training, meticulously recording every step, it's all connected.
That makes total sense. Would you feel comfortable taking a medication if you had no idea if the manufacturer even had to prove it was pure?
Absolutely not. Not a chance. And to get to that level of confidence, you have to navigate a really complex regulatory maze. It's not just one set of rules, it's different agencies, guidelines, and interpretations.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit. Our sources go really deep on the FDA, the U.S. watchdog,
Right.
and the EMA over in Europe. These are two major players on the global stage, and they both want the same thing, safe and effective products.
Yeah.
But how they get there is where it gets interesting.
Yeah. The sources even mention a company that ran into a huge roadblock. Why? Because they didn't realize how different the expectations are between the FDA and EMA. One agency might be like, we need you to tell us exactly how you're doing this, and the other is more like, just prove that your system works. We don't really care about all the tiny details. That can be a nightmare for a company trying to launch a product around the world.
So it sounds like it's not just about following the rules. It's also about understanding the philosophy behind those rules. But how do companies even keep up with all of this?
Well, that's where the ICH comes in. That's the International Council for Harmonization. Think of them as the peacekeepers of pharmaceutical regulations. They're always trying to find common ground between the different standards that each country has.
Harmonization. That sounds like a good thing.
Hmm.
But our sources hint that it's not always a walk in the park. It's kind of like trying to get everyone to agree on the perfect pizza topping. There are always going to be people who want something different.
You got it. Take analytical testing, for example. Even when you have those harmonized chapters from the ICH, there's still these little quirks. Like, the Japanese pharmacopoeia relies on EPA drinking water standards for heavy metals, which leads to less stringent testing compared to other regions.
So harmonization definitely helps, but companies still need to think globally and be aware of both the common threads and those regional differences.
Right on. Now, how about we take you on a little virtual tour of what cGMP actually looks like in action? Let's start in the lab.
The lab.
Uh-huh.
The heart of it all, right? I'm picturing those scientists in their lab coats, surrounded by bubbling flasks. What did cGMP have to do with all of that?
It all comes down to validated test methods. Our sources talk about these disintegration and hardness tests for tablets. Just imagine, you swallow a pill and it crumbles before it even reaches your stomach. That's why these tests are so important.
Yeah, I can picture that. So those lab tests ensure that the product actually does what it's supposed to do. But what about when we move to the production line, where those pills are actually made?
Things get even more interesting on the production line. We're talking controlled environments, air pressure, filtration systems, you name it. It's all designed to prevent contamination.
Yeah, I can definitely see why one little particle could ruin a whole batch of medication.
That's exactly right. And the sources even mentioned that people get worried about things like leaving doors open in clean rooms for, too long. Every detail matters when you're dealing with products that can affect people's health.
So controlled environments, validated methods. What else is crucial on the production line?
Record keeping. And I'm talking about meticulous record keeping. Every single step has to be documented. And not just on a sticky note, it all has to go in official records. The rule is, if it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. At least that's how the regulators see it.
Wow, documentation really is the unsung hero of cGMP. But with all of this rigor, doesn't that create some challenges for companies? They're trying to innovate, develop new treatments, all while staying compliant.
You've hit on a really important point. It's a constant balancing act. How do you be compliant and competitive at the same time? It's tough, especially with all the pressure to get those life-saving treatments out there as quickly as possible.
So the stakes are pretty high. But what happens when things inevitably go wrong? I mean, no one's perfect, right?
That's where having a really solid system for investigating failures comes in. Our sources talk about the FDA's guidance on out-of-specification test results. They call it OOS. It's not about hiding mistakes. It's about understanding why they happened, taking action to fix them, and then making sure they don't happen again.
So it's a constant cycle of learning and improvement. Failure isn't the enemy, it's an opportunity to make the system even better.
Exactly. And we're just scratching the surface of global GMP compliance.
This is getting really interesting. We've covered the basics of cGMP, we've peeked into the world of labs and production lines, and we've even touched on this global regulatory dance. So where do we go from here?
Well, let's dig deeper into the practical side of all of this. How do companies actually implement these principles on a global scale? What kind of real-world challenges do they run into, and what strategies do they use to navigate this complex world? That's what we're going to tackle next.
All right, so we've established that cGMP is all about making quality a part of every single step. But let's be realistic here. How does a big global company actually put that into practice? It sounds really complicated.
Oh, it definitely is. Our sources actually dive into some of the real-world challenges companies face, and one of the big ones is managing all those electronic records and signatures. Think about all the data a pharmaceutical company generates. We're talking test results, batch records, validation documents. It's a ton of information, and it all has to be kept secure and trustworthy.
That makes sense, especially in today's world where everything's electronic. But how do they actually make sure those electronic records are legitimate, like as good as gold?
Don't worry, the FDA has thought of that. They have something called 21 CFR Part 11. It covers everything you can think of. Validating those computer systems, making sure only the right people have access. They even make sure those electronic signatures are unique, kind of like a fingerprint. It's basically like having a high-tech vault for all those critical records.
So it's not enough to just have the technology. You have to use it the right way and meet those strict regulations. But what about human error? Even with all the fancy tech, people can still make mistakes, right?
You're absolutely right. Our sources are very clear about this. Qualified and trained personnel, those are the backbone of any good GMP system. You can have the best equipment in the world, the most detailed procedures, but if the people using them aren't up to par, things can go wrong really fast.
And I'm guessing training isn't something you just do once and you're done. With all these regulations changing and new technologies popping up, it has to be an ongoing thing, right?
You hit the nail on the head. Our sources talk about the importance of clear job descriptions, competency assessments. You have to know that your team can actually do what's required. And then you need ongoing training to keep everyone up to speed. It's a continuous cycle of learning and improving.
Okay, so you need well-trained people, you need robust systems, and you need that airtight documentation. That's a lot to handle. But there's another thing that often gets overlooked: communication.
Communication. That's what ties everything together. And our sources really emphasize its importance. We're talking about communication within the company and also with partners outside the company. Just imagine something goes wrong on the production line, but no one says anything because it's not clear who they should tell. That's a recipe for disaster.
So you need to create a culture where people feel okay speaking up,
Yeah.
right? Whether they see a problem or just have an idea for how to do things better.
Exactly. And that open communication has to go beyond the company itself. Think about suppliers, contractors. Everyone has to be on the same page when it comes to GMP. Clear expectations, a shared commitment to quality, it all matters.
This really shows how interconnected everything is in the world of GMP. But let's zoom out a little and look at the big picture again. We talked about harmonization earlier.
Right, the ICH. They've done some amazing work trying to bring those global regulatory agencies closer together.
Yeah.
It's like they're creating a universal language for GMP, which theoretically should make it easier for companies to operate all over the world.
But like we said before, it's not always perfect. Our sources suggest there are still challenges, right?
You're absolutely right. Harmonization is a process. It's not a finish line. You still have regional variations, things that companies need to be aware of in different parts of the world. It's like having a blueprint that everyone can use, but then you can customize it a little bit based on where you are.
So it's this constant balancing act. You need to understand those global standards, but you also have to be aware of those little differences in each region. But with all these challenges, do multinational companies ever feel overwhelmed?
Of course they do. It's a huge undertaking. But the stakes are high. Think about a company developing a drug that could save lives. They've spent years doing research, poured in tons of resources. But if they can't figure out the regulatory hurdles in each country, that drug might never get to the patients who need it.
That's a good reminder of why this all matters. It's not just about checking off boxes. It's about making sure those treatments reach the people who need them.
That's it. And that brings us to another crucial piece of the puzzle: audits. They're kind of like the quality police. They're making sure everyone is following the rules and that those GMP systems are actually working.
Okay, audits. I always picture those as these super intense events where inspectors go through every single document. Is that how it really works?
Well, there's definitely some of that. But audits are more than just finding problems. They're also about providing an independent assessment of how well a company is complying with GMP.
Our sources talk about different types of audits, right? You have those internal audits where a company checks itself, and then there are external ones like supplier audits and those dreaded regulatory inspections.
Exactly. And each type has a different purpose. Internal audits are like a company looking in the mirror and figuring out what it's doing well and what it needs to work on. Supplier audits make sure that everyone providing materials and services is also meeting GMP requirements. And then you have those regulatory inspections. Those are the big ones where government agencies step in to make sure everything's up to code.
So it's like this multi-layered system, lots of checks and balances, and it's all about making sure things are high quality and safe.
That's a good way to put it. But regardless of who's doing the audit, the objective is the same. They want to make sure those GMP principles are being followed, that the systems are strong, and ultimately that patients are protected.
And our sources really emphasize the importance of a well-defined audit program, right? It's not just someone randomly dropping by, it's a structured process.
You got it. You need clear procedures, trained auditors. It can't just be anyone walking in and starting to poke around. The auditors have to know what they're looking for, understand all the ins and outs of GMP, and be able to explain their findings in a clear and helpful way.
It makes me think about those auditor qualifications. They need to be more than just box tickers, right?
You're absolutely right. They need experience, they need knowledge, and they need to be able to work well with people. Remember, the goal isn't to create a stressful environment. It's to work together with the company to find issues and make things better.
So it's not about pointing fingers. It's about working together to improve things.
Exactly. And that's why what happens after an audit is so important. Let's say an auditor finds a serious problem. If there's no system to track what the company does to fix it, or to make sure those fixes actually worked, then the whole audit was pointless.
So you need to close the loop, find the issue, take action, and then make sure the problem is really gone. But I'm curious, with all the technology out there now, are audits changing? Are we still in the days of paper checklists and giant binders full of documents?
That's a great question, and the answer is a big no. Technology is revolutionizing the way we do audits. It's making them more efficient, giving us more insights, and honestly, it's making them a lot more interesting.
Okay, tell me more. How is technology changing audits?
Well, think about remote auditing. Now, thanks to video conferencing, document sharing, and all of those fancy digital tools, audits can be done from anywhere in the world.
That's amazing. It must save multinational companies so much time and money on travel.
Absolutely. And it's not just about convenience, it's also about using the power of data. Data analytics is transforming audits. Auditors can now analyze huge amounts of data, spot trends, and zero in on potential risks with incredible accuracy. It's like having a high-powered magnifying glass for GMP compliance.
Wow, data analytics for audits. That's really impressive. What about artificial intelligence? Is AI becoming a part of the auditing world?
It absolutely is. AI is being used to automate some tasks, like reviewing documents and analyzing data. This frees up the auditors to focus on the more complex things that really need a human touch.
So it's like having a digital assistant for GMP compliance. So technology is streamlining the process, giving us deeper insights, and letting those human auditors focus on the most important things.
That's exactly right. And this is only the beginning. As technology keeps getting better, we can expect even more innovative ways to do audits. And that will ultimately make GMP compliance even stronger and keep patients safer.
This is incredible. We've gone from paper trails to digital detectives in just a few minutes. But before we get too carried away with all the tech stuff, I want to bring it back to the human side of things. At the end of the day, it's people who make all this happen, right?
You're absolutely right. It's easy to focus on the regulations, the procedures, the technology. But we can't forget about the individuals behind it, all the scientists, the engineers, the quality assurance people, the people on the production lines. They're the ones who make GMP a reality.
They're the ones doing the work day after day to make sure those medicines we depend on are safe and effective.
Exactly. They're the unsung heroes of the pharmaceutical industry. Their hard work and their expertise are what make GMP such a force for good.
So to all those GMP champions out there, we salute you. You're doing important work, and it's making a real difference in the world.
Well said. And as we wrap up this part of the deep dive, it's important to remember that GMP is a journey, not a destination. It's a continuous process of learning, adapting, and trying to be the best we can be in everything we do.
We've covered so much from those detailed lab tests to those high-stakes audits, and it's clear that GMP is this really complex thing. But before we finish this deep dive, I want to get your perspective on something. We've talked about all the rules, the technology, how global it all is. But what about the core of it all?
You mean like the human side of things?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's super easy to get lost in all the technical stuff, but at the end of the day, GMP is about people. It's about making sure those medicines are safe, they work, and they're made to the highest standards because people rely on them.
It's about trust, right? Trusting the whole system, trusting the companies, and really trusting the people who are making it all happen. Exactly. And that trust comes from knowledge, expertise, and a real commitment to quality. Think about all the people involved. You have the scientists who carefully create the formulas, the engineers who design those high-tech facilities, the quality assurance experts checking every single step, and then the people on the production lines who make sure those treatments are made perfectly. It's a team effort, like an orchestra, where everyone is dedicated to that one goal, keeping patients safe.
It's pretty amazing to think about the impact those people have working behind the scenes. A lot of patients might never see them, but they're still making a difference.
That's true. Their work is so important, but it often goes unnoticed. But without their dedication, their attention to detail, the whole system wouldn't work.
So to all those GMP champions out there, from the lab technicians to the regulatory experts,
So thank you.
your work matters, and it's having a positive impact all over the world.
I couldn't agree more. As we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's really important to remember that GMP isn't static, it's always changing. New technology comes along, there are scientific advancements, global challenges, it's always evolving, and everyone involved needs to be able to adapt and be open to new ideas.
That's a great point. It's not about being stuck in the old ways, it's about always trying to improve, learning from mistakes, and finding new and better ways to ensure that quality and safety are always top-notch.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this whole field so fascinating. It's dynamic, it's challenging, and in the end, it's about having a positive impact on people's health all over the world.
And that's the perfect way to end things. We've explored those complex global regulations, dug into the practical side of GMP compliance, and even looked ahead to the future of GMP in this age of technology.
But even more importantly, we've recognized that human element, the passion, the dedication, the expertise of all the people who make GMP a reality.
So as you learn more about GMP, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and always strive for excellence. Because ultimately, it's about making a difference one product at a time, one process at a time, one patient at a time.
And that's a mission worth pursuing.
And that wraps up our deep dive for today. We hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new about the amazing world of GMP. Until next time, keep learning and keep pushing the boundaries of quality and safety.